And we are live. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to A Bookish Moment. I'm Sarah Burr.
And I am JC Kenney. And Sarah, I'm so excited. Happy Wednesday. We have a great friend hanging out with us to talk some romance and some women's fiction and some just great storytelling in general. It's time to get bookish.
Yes, let's get bookish. And folks, yes, you may recognize our wonderful guest this afternoon. Liz Flaherty is a dear friend of our show. She has popped into our chat many times, and she is a very dear friend of both JC and our good friend Nan Reinhardt as well. So we're glad, Liz, that we finally get to chat with you about you and your work and get to introduce you to our wonderful audience members. So thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. I'm very glad to be here. Go ahead.
Just to get things started, I'm wondering, for folks who may not be familiar with you and your work, can you share a little bit about your background and possibly what led you to start writing stories about women?
I think I'm Liz Flaherty. I live in the cornfields right in the middle of Indiana. And now lately the view is better because the corn is down. But, I think I was like a lot of romance writers who started, in the previous century. I read a lot of them and I kept thinking, I could do better than that. And, like 6 or 7 manuscripts later, I did. I sold my first book, and those are some favorites, JC. I sold my first book in 1998. It was published in 99. And I thought I would be an overnight success. And 6 or 7 years later, I think, and took a long time. I'm a retired postal worker, so I had a job I liked, but the writing was always there. I think I started when I was about 9 on my aunt's Royal Portable typewriter, coolest typewriter in the world, and she would let us use that, I think, to get us out of her hair, and I've never stopped. So.
Lovely.
I have started on romance and wrote, I don't know how many, close to 20, I guess, with Harlequin, with Wild Rose Press, with a few publishers, and then moved over to women's fiction more. But they're still loving those books.
So, Liz, it's fabulous to get to chat with you here, because I just want to say, and as much as I joke around here, these 2 books here, these are my 2 favorite of yours. They are just wonderful, folks. You need to get all of Liz's books, but these are my 2 favorite, The Happiness Pact, and then this one, Back to McGuffey's. They're both fabulous. But what I want to ask, having done a little pitch for you there, is you mentioned romance and women's fiction. So these are 2 separate genres that you write. Could you maybe kind of talk about, because they're different, could you maybe talk about the differences and maybe the similarities so people kind of get a feel for what you're writing and why the stories are a little different?
Yeah. And I do want to throw another little blurb in here too. The book that JC held up, The Happiness Pact, he helped me immeasurably with that book.
Oh, wow.
Thank you.
Because there were things that I needed help with, and he gave me just the best advice ever, and I still appreciate it.
Oh, I appreciate that. And for those of you, this isn't a spoiler to the book, but it does talk about somebody living with depression. And so Liz was kind enough to reach out and ask me for my take, because I think a lot of you know I live with depression. So, even those of us who live with depression can still have our happy endings. So enough about me.
Women's fiction and romance. I don't see as big a difference as what I guess there actually is, because to me, they're both the women's journey. And I know in romance, it's the guy's journey too, but it's still, to me, it's what was it they used to say, their romance was books written by women, for women, about women. And I'm old enough that that's kind of the way it still feels to me, even though it's very much, almost always a two point of view story anymore. And women's fiction is almost, for me, almost always just one point of view. And that is the woman the story is about. And with my latest one that I had out, Pieces of Blue, it was not only just her story, but I wrote it in first person. And I love first person. And to me, that is so perfect for women's fiction. And then when I wrote the next book in that series, I started out in third person with both the woman and the man's point of view. And I'm writing and I'm thinking, I don't want this to be just a romance. I want it to be women's fiction too. So the lines get blurred for me. I don't think they do for everybody, but they just kind of get blurred for me. And I think that's about it. It's always the woman's journey.
I love your comment about the perspective, because, and thinking in the books where I have written it's from one person's point of view, but it's third person, versus that first person. You're in their head, you're hearing their thoughts. And it is such a different experience, not only about how you are connecting with your character, but also how the book is being experienced, because with a third person point of view, you can kind of, you can share a little bit more about how the world around us is being perceived. But in that first person, you're just like, you're really there with your character.
Yeah. Sometimes writing in first person is almost like journaling. Yes. Because the person does get so deeply into the writer, that I've always had difficulty writing. What is it? There's emotion and then there's point of view or deep point of view. And I've always had trouble with the difference. But with first person, I think I'm in deep point of view the whole time. Mm-hmm. and it's easy for me. But I also know that there are a lot of people who don't like reading first person. And I haven't heard much about that, but I'm sure that there are people who, just draw back from my latest stuff just because of that.
Well, I tell you what, Liz, Pieces of Blue, your brand new book that has just come out. It's kind of it's not available right now. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But with that being in first person, the emotional gut punch you deliver on that opening page is just, I tell you what, it literally took my breath away. And it's just one of those, like you're saying, just that the emotion of our main character, Maggie, what she is going through right from the get-go. It's like, okay, this isn't going to be just some fun little, walk in the park, like I write. It's not, I don't want to make everybody think it's all doom and gloom, but it's like, it hits you there.
Yeah. And the first paragraph in that book, well, just really 2 words it was, I don't know how long I carried those around, and they just would not let go. I had those 2 words before I ever had any of the rest of the story. And then the story kept surprising me as I went along. And it was just, I won't say never, but I just had so much fun writing that book.
It's amazing how those words can kind of propel you to do these incredible things, and like their power it is truly amazing. And speaking of amazing, we have a wonderful group of people that are joining us this afternoon in our chat with our lovely viewers. We have Farmhouse Reader, Regina, Nan, and Mizan, and Maureen all saying hello to everybody and giving good greetings to everyone. Nan in particular, agrees about the happiness pact. And I also would like to ask, is it hard, Liz, to remember that you can only be in one person's head when you write in first person? Do you sometimes glitch and pick up another character's point of view?
Known to. Because especially like I say, there's always love in the books. So the love interest is usually a strong character. And so it's hard not to, get that in there. So yes, I have been known to. And
I
I've
think
gone back and taken it out because I have a reader who catches me.
I think we're definitely guilty of that at one point or another. I know that there are some times where it's like you're reading through your edits on a manuscript and your editor is like, how would they know this if this is really first person? I'm like, that's a good question. They wouldn't. And luckily it's easy enough to fix most times.
Yes. So
but that's I think one of the things that you raise a really interesting point to me, Liz, in that in your writing, in your storytelling, that having that deep first person point of view where we're sitting right on we're sitting right on the shoulder, we're taking the road trip with Maggie, both literally and figuratively, that can be a challenge because of the nature of the story, whereas for me as a mystery author, it's not as critical for me. Because, it's like for my sleuths like Elmo, those are written for first person, the same that you do, Liz. But, I don't have to go as deep into the relationships and the emotion that you do. So I just think that's a really interesting point that you bring up, that, with telling your stories from that first person, well, you need to be it's so hard to want to be in the head of the other main character, and yet you still pull off these amazing stories. So that's a long way of saying you're an amazing writer.
Oh, well, thank you. I may just sit here and listen if you want to keep talking.
Okay.
But first person is just, it really is so special to me as a writer. And I run into things because I want to be able to, you mentioned emotion, and I am an emotional writer, and I want to be able to show the emotion of the non-point of view characters. And I can't always do that, but it's also a lot of fun to try to find a way to do it. Sometimes writing is the most fun when it's a struggle, I think. Although I really like days when it just goes, just aren't enough of those.
I agree with that one. And one thing that I would love to kind of hear a little bit more about, Liz, in reading your bio, you had mentioned that for you, writing books is about dreams, which for your characters and possibly even for your readers, dreams that have gone awry or have died, but you are trying to find a way to either straighten them out or create new ones. And I would love to hear more about that, this goal that you have in mind with this unpacking dreams and sharing with your reader that, giving them hope or giving them a path forward. And I'm wondering, how was that something that you always felt a deep conviction for, or was that something that you grew into as you began writing more and more?
I probably grew into it. And your goal kind of changes, or your goals change as you go along, I think. It used to be so much about, success. I mean, success used to be such a big thing. And then, I think in my bio now it says, I think success is having a good time. And I do. And I'm glad to have reached that before it was too late. And you have different goals for what you want to give your readers. And I think when I was younger, because of the emotional part of my writing, I wanted to be life-changing. And now I just want to give them a good afternoon. You know, if they can close the book and say, I enjoyed that, you know, that's enough. I like that a lot. Yeah. But there was, I did write a book years and years ago called One More Summer. And it was the most emotional book I ever wrote. And it did, there were a few readers who wrote to me and told me that the book had changed their lives, had changed how they looked at things forever, because there was breast cancer involved. And that's a deeply emotional thing, as you know. And that was I felt the responsibility of that. I mean, I was very touched that they wrote to me like that, but it was a responsibility. And that's where I guess I don't feel when I write a book that I have to do that, but it was nice being told that once. But now it's great if I do change lives, but mostly let me give you the good afternoon.
I love that.
That's so cool. Confession time. Probably nobody will be surprised about this. I have never gotten anybody telling me that their life was changed because I bumped off a bad guy.
Well, I will say that my life was changed because I met you, JC. So I think that
thank you.
We're all changing lives in the ways that we work. But Liz, I think you're this goal that you have now to give people a nice afternoon. Goodness, we need nice afternoons. And yes,
certainly do.
That is such an admirable way to approach things, especially when we kind of live especially in an industry where success is viewed in a very numerical way, and that's not healthy for anybody. So thank you for pointing that out. And we also have Nan chiming in saying, "One More Summer will tear your heart out, but it's a delicious read." So folks, if you need all the feels, this sounds like one right up your alley. Liz, one book that I have that I feel a special connection with, especially the story of friendship, and it's following this group of women throughout their lives. One of your newer books, the Girls of Tonsil Lake, that it gives me, kind of harkens back to like how I fell in love with the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and just like that deep sense of friendship in that, sometimes romantic love may not be everything that you need it to be, or it isn't the end all and be all. And having those friendships with you throughout your lifetime is really special in itself. So I'm wondering if you would be willing to share a little bit about your process, or how the story about these four friends came to be.
Yeah, that was The Girls of Tonsil Lake and also One More Summer were books that you'll hear an author say it just wrote itself, which is kind of a stretch, but it's also pretty close. When I sat down, I was going to just write about four friends because it was happening then. Robin Carr had written a really good one. I can't think who else. I know Robin Carr's really, really affected me, and I had to try very hard when I was first writing it. I didn't want to try and sound like her, like I could, but I mean, I wanted to not do that. And they kind of told me, and that was the first time I ever tried first person, because each of the friends, the book was written in sections, and each friend would write a part in each section in first person. That was the first time I ever used first person. And I really liked it then. And it was where I learned more about giving characters their own personalities. And it was deeply emotional. And there was some fun in it too, because usually I don't purposefully make a character just like somebody I know. But Suzanne, one of the girls at the lake, was a lot like my best friend from work, Debbie. And as soon as she read the book, I didn't think anybody would recognize that. But when Debbie read the book, she did. And I was afraid she would be mad at me because Suzanne was kind of flighty. She was the blonde. Sorry. She was the blonde. And I was afraid she would be offended, but she really loved being in the book.
That's so funny.
But it was one that it wrote very fast. And it was at a time when AIDS was big, and it was very frightening. And I addressed that, and I addressed Suzanne's one of the kids was into drugs, and I addressed harder stuff than I normally do, and it kind of took a lot out of me to write it, but it also gave me a lot.
Well, I tell you what, Maureen just chimed in saying The Girls of Tonsil Lake is the first book of yours that she's read, and it's a wonderful story. So there you go.
That's nice.
I like that concept of of books giving us more than they're taking from us, and thinking about what our books give us each time, especially when we all have written several books, more than several books at this point. What do you feel that you gain each time that you venture into these stories, Liz? Is it a positive? Is it a net positive? Is it net neutral? Is it net negative? What do you feel that you get out of it?
It's a net positive for no other reason than the people in these, they're very real. So these people in these books are my friends, or they're people that I love. And I don't need them to love me, because I don't, but it's growth. Writing the books makes me grow as a person, and makes me very happy, except for when it's making me miserable because I can't do what I want to do. But but I have been lucky, in my life with my family, and I have 7 perfect grandchildren, in case anybody wanted to know. And I have been lucky. And one of the luckiest things is being able to write books. So, and there was something else I was going to say, and I've forgotten it. That happens a lot.
So Liz, one of the things, we've talked a lot about emotion in general this afternoon. Does your own writing make you cry?
As a few times, not very often, because I'm usually pretty prepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
But when something is unexpected, and one time I cried hard over a character who died, and I tried to go back and unwrite that. And as a matter of fact, I wrote a different ending to the book for myself, because I didn't want her to go. But it was a better book because of that. It was a better story.
Yeah.
So,
how about you, Sarah?
I definitely have cried. I don't think while writing the scenes, because I am just kind of in that fever pitch of trying to get the words down, but definitely going back and revisiting those scenes are definite, yes. And I'll be like, oh my God, I wrote something that moved me, but then I also cry at everything. So I'm like, well, who knows where this will fall on the spectrum for most people. But I definitely, usually they're happy tears, but because I don't like to feel sad. What about you, JC?
Twice. Very early. So in my very first book, Fallen Star, there's a scene that I remember, and this is a book that unfortunately is not in print right now. But I remember writing it and then reading it afterwards, and I was just in tears. It was a deeply personal scene, and I remember to this day just crying my eyeballs out. And then in book 4, the end of book 4 of my Allie Cobb series, A Deadly Discovery, I remember that one brought me to tears, and I was like, yeah, I remember thinking, it's like, okay, I did all right. I wasn't expecting that. So.
I like freely will admit that A Literal Mess is the only book that I've ever cried in the first chapter, because the way that like things kick off with Allie and her dad, I was just like, oh my God. So
yeah, I remember that too. I was affected by that too.
Oh, all right. Here,
yeah.
A little pat on the back.
But that you did mention something though that I don't read after my books are published. I don't read them anymore. I mean, I may go in and read read parts of the manuscript, and like as I'm writing a sequel, I have the other file open so I can try and remember who had what color of eyes. But the published books, I don't read them because I'm afraid of mistakes, and because I'm afraid I will find something and wish I had done it differently. So I just blind ignorance maybe, but it keeps me okay with that.
I agree. I'm a let it go person, because it's like I can't do anything more. And
and once your book is out there, when somebody buys it, it becomes their story. And that's why I've always preferred that my books really not have people on the cover, because I want the readers to choose what they look like. And I have people covers, doesn't hurt anything, but I like for them, because if they choose what they look like and they can see them as they read it, it makes them closer. Yeah.
It's funny you should mention that about the appearance of characters, because I was just thinking earlier today, there are a lot of, especially my main characters, that I kind of have like the face blindness, where it's like I don't know 100% what they look like, but I know who they are so intimately. It's a very strange relationship to be like, I'm not 100% sure. I could picture them in my mind and form something very clearly that is like physical, but I know what they're thinking inside of their mind.
Oh, I'm the same way. I almost what is that called? Impressionist. Because I can see their shape, see the clothes they wear. Can't really see their features, even though I know, they have a dimple or a scar or whatever color of eyes. And more often than I like to admit, I will start them out wearing glasses, and they have never worn them again after that first time. Because I think glasses are such a distinctive thing.
They are.
To envision. And then I totally blow it off. So
well, the characters put them down someplace and forgot where they left them, and so they just haven't been able to find them.
They're usually on top of my head. So.
Well, Liz, this has just been fabulous. I'm so glad we got a chance to hang out. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news that we are almost out of time, which is awful. But this has just been great. And I apologize for my babbling today and took up more time. People should be listening to you, not me. So for those of our fans who are just being introduced to you today, where can they find you online? How can they kind of keep up with you to find out what is going on? Because you still got lots of good stuff coming up.
Oh, yes, I hope I do. I have a new website. It's at lizflaherty.net. And on there, you can find most of my books and how to sign up for my newsletter, which I don't send out very often, and where I am online. What I've got coming is Pieces of Blue will be back out soon. It's not right now. And it will be followed by Splashes of Red, which is its sequel, second book of the series. And The Girls of Tonsil Lake is out there with the new cover. And, well, if you just go to my website, you can see a lot of that. I do want to say I so much appreciate you guys having me here today. I enjoyed the talk, and I look forward to coming back again.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
Thank
what we like
you.
to hear.
Yes, we love it. We have Nan saying how terrific it is to see you here. I like that we've got an abbreviation of 2BM of the Bookish Moment. I love it, Nan.
Yes.
Mizan is chiming into the chat saying that, Liz, you're a new author to her and that she's added you to her to be read pile. So that's you've got
I'm delighted.
a new wonderful person following you, because Mizan is a wonderful, wonderful human being. We love her.
Mizan, you're the best.
So Liz, thank you so much for being here this afternoon. Thank you to our wonderful audience members who were here with us live. And if you're watching us after the fact, please feel free to drop any comments into on YouTube. We're more than happy. Always love seeing what you guys are saying. You're very welcome, Mizan. We appreciate you all very, very much. We have Maureen saying, wonderful podcast job. Thank you, Maureen. We appreciate it. We will be back with another show tomorrow evening. We have an episode of the Bookish Hour coming to you. Our Bookish Hours start at 8 p.m. Eastern time, so it's a little bit later in the evening. We're going to be joined by mystery author Shelley Burbank. Shelley writes mysteries that take place in my home state of Maine, and it's really exciting to be able to talk with a fellow Mainer and all about the fun things that happen there. So we're really excited to welcome her to the show tomorrow evening. We hope that you'll join us. And again, Liz, thank you so much for being here and sharing your time with us this afternoon.
Thank you. And I do have to say that I never went to Maine until 2 years ago, and it became my favorite place.
Did you go in the summertime or the wintertime?
October.
Oh, okay. It's beautiful. My favorite time to go is the summertime. And I absolutely love it. When I was living there, it was a little bit hard for me because I was born in the South, lived in Florida. So it was a big adjustment for a kid to go from sandy beaches to rock beaches. But now that I'm a wizened adult, I very much appreciate going back and breathing that sweet, clean air. It's simply beautiful. So I can't wait to talk more about it tomorrow night. So for our viewers, thank you for being here again. We will connect with you guys and see you on a future episode. And until then, stay bookish, everybody. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thanks, folks.